Okay, now we will start our lessons. But before we start, we will make a quick revision from the previous lessons. We have talked about the protist and are unicellular or multicellular organism. Unicellular or multicellular organisms that make their own food or eat other organisms. The protist kingdoms contains unicellular. The protist kingdom contains unicellular organisms, like, for example, bacteria and archaea. Bacteria and archaea. And now, how do you tell these tiny organisms far away? How do you keep yourself? In the beginning, we have to know the protists are much larger than bacteria. The protists are much larger than bacteria. And there's a generous number, maybe 100 or 1,000 of bacteria. 100 or 1,000 of bacteria cells might fit into a typical protist. So most protists are microscopic. An amoeba, for example, need a microscope. The cells of protist have a central nucleus and other membrane-bound organelles. Here we must distinguish between plant and fungi and protists. Protists have simple body structures and lack specialized tissues. This is the answer for critical thinking. Pay attention here. Protists have simple body structures and lack specialized tissue. And here it's unlike animals. From the other hand, it's unlike animals. How it's unlike animals? The animals can move from place to other place and obtain eat from other organs. On the other hand, typical protists include algae, amoeba, and slime moths. Here, stay with me. Okay. Bacteria and protists. There's difference between ancient bacteria and true bacteria. Ancient bacteria, hot springs bacteria. True bacteria. Rod shape, E. coli, sphere, shape step, spiral shape, lime dishes. Protist kingdoms, plant-like, red algae, animal-like paramecium, fungus-like, orange slime, mold. Algae are similar to plants. Have a chlorophyll, chlorophyll, and make their own food by itself. Amoeba, similar to animals, move from place to other place, and obtain food by eating other organisms. eating other organisms. Now about fungus like protist. Here example, slime mold, break down dead organisms. Break down dead organisms to obtain food. Break down dead organism to obtain food. Now what about virus or viruses? Viruses are tiny particles that enter the body of living things, take over some of its cells and cause the organism to get sick. We can ask ourselves, what are viruses? Viruses bridge a gap between living and non-living things, so that they may seem alive. A part of scientists believe that virus is not living organism, How can we classify a virus? We can. Virus not classified in any of the 6 kingdoms. What is the reason? They don't carry out all of the basic life process. I will repeat, they don't carry out, pay attention to this point, they don't carry out all of the basic life processes. The virus carry out only one, reproduction. Carry out only one, reproduction. It's so small. The virus, we have to memorize, it's so small, and we need a microscope to study them. We need microscope to study them. In our life, there's a common cold is caused by virus. And some viruses are not harmful. You have to know, some viruses are not harmful. Sometimes enter our body or living things and take some of its cells. And cause to it get sick. It cause dishes. So now we are gonna to mention some serious dishes. For example, polio for kids, chickenpox, HIV/AIDS, sneezing and coughing. Now, in this time, virus corona. The virus send cold viruses from one person to other person. Now, what the virus do when it enter inside a cell? It attach itself to a cell. When the virus enters a cell, it takes a control of cell activities, control of the cell, and gives the instructions for the cell to produce more viruses. And over time, when the time passes, the cells becomes filled with virus particles, maybe a large number, and it bursts open. Then the released viruses from the cell can invade other cells. It can attack or invade other cells, causing infection and disease. Now let's watch a video. Maybe help us to distinguish between
In this video, we're going to look at what viruses are. Viruses are a type of microorganism. They are too small to be seen by the naked eye, much smaller than bacteria, and about 100 times smaller than human cells. They come in many different shapes and are present wherever there are cells to infect. In fact, viruses are the most common biological unit on Earth, outnumbering all other types combined. Viruses can infect humans or animals, plants, and even bacteria. Viruses are very simple. They are made up of a protein coat surrounding a strand of genetic material. The genetic material can either be DNA or RNA. Sometimes a membrane called an envelope surrounds a virus particle. This envelope isn't made by the virus, but is actually stolen from the membrane of the host cell. This is a great strategy by the virus. It makes it harder for the host cell to identify the virus as foreign. As we just saw, viruses aren't made up of cells. In fact, they aren't really living. They are halfway between a living organism and a chemical. Because they aren't living, we say there are different types of virus rather than saying different species of virus. Some common types of viruses are influenza and HIV or AIDS. So if viruses aren't living, how do they cause illness? Viruses are parasites. They can only reproduce in other living cells. They enter a host cell and hijack the host's genetic machinery. They make copies of their own viral genetic material instead and produce lots more virus particles. After lots of virus particles have been made, the host cell dies and the viral particles are released to infect more cells. The released viral particles can also spread to other people. There are actually two different ways in which virus attacks the host cell, which we'll look at in more detail in this video. Viruses cause many human diseases, including colds, influenza, rabies, yellow fever, HIV or AIDS, pneumonia, bird flu, Zika, Ebola, and the cancer-causing HPV. They are just a few examples. Fortunately, the human immune system is very good at dealing with viral invaders. Sometimes our immune system will recognize the virus as an intruder and will destroy the virus before it gains entry into a cell. Even after infection begins, our immune system destroys the virus and the person recovers. Sometimes the immune system cannot destroy the virus fast enough, and the virus can cause permanent damage or death. In 1918, the Spanish flu is thought to have caused up to 50 million deaths worldwide. Scientists have developed vaccinations against lots of viruses, which have even led to the eradication of some viruses like smallpox, as human hosts become immune. However, some viruses like HIV have proved impossible to develop any kind of vaccine for. Did you know that antibiotics do not work for viruses? They are only for bacterial infections. If you have a cold or flu, you shouldn't be taking antibiotics. They won't make any difference. There are some antiviral drugs that have been developed, such as the one that dramatically prolongs the life of people affected by HIV. So there we have viruses. They're incredibly simple organisms, but are extremely effective at causing infection.
If you like the video, give
Okay, thank you. Now, open your book, page 41, please. So put a highlight. Put highlight on page 41, Protist Kingdoms. Yes. Like bacteria and archaea, the Protist Kingdom contains unicellular organisms. Contains unicellular organisms. Unicellular organisms may be unicellular or protists, may be unicellular or multicellular. Make their own food or eat other organisms. Make their own food or eat other organisms. Protists are much larger than bacteria. The heterogeneous number may be hundreds or thousands of bacterial cells might fit into a typical protist. Barely visible without a microscope. We can see it sometimes without microscope. Here, protists have central nucleus and other membrane bunk. Protists have simple body structures. This highlight by yellow color answer critical thinking. Answer critical thinking. Highlight the yellow answer the critical thinking. Now some protists like algae are similar to plants. How? Have chlorophyll and make their own food. Have chlorophyll and make their own food. Other example like amoeba, similar to animals, can move from place to place and obtain food by eating other organisms. Obtain food by other organisms. Can move from place to place. Now, question number 1, quick check. Unicellular organism without a nucleus lives in the soil and breaks down waste materials. Are these archaea or bacteria? Are these archaea or bacteria? The answer, it's a bacterium. It's a bacterium. It does not live in a harsh environment. Right? It does not live in a harsh environment. It doesn't live in a harsh environment. The answer, it doesn't live in a harsh environment. Last time, it's a bacterium. It doesn't live in a harsh environment. Critical thinking. What stops scientists from classifying plant-like protists as plants? The answer here. The answer here. Some are unicellular, some are unicellular. You can write the answer for critical thinking. Some are unicellular, some are unicellular, and they lack specialized tissue. They lack specialized tissues and have simple body structures. I repeat, some are unicellular and they lack specialized tissues and have simple body structures. Have simple body structures. Now we are gonna page 2042. Viruses spread the gap between living and non-living things. The virus are not living organisms. Viruses cannot be classified of any the 6 kingdoms. What are the reasons? The reasons in the red curve. They don't carry out all of the basic life processes. Viruses carry out only reproduction. Only reproduction. Viruses, very small, need microscope to study. Need microscope to study them. Some viruses are not harmful. Pay attention for this point. Some viruses are not harmful. Here I can put a question. True, false. All viruses are harmful. You have to put false. Okay, when the virus enter our body, change by the cells. Control center of the cells. Yes. Now the common cold caused by a virus. Some dishes, it's caused by virus. Chickenpox, polio, HIV/AIDS, sneezing and coughing. It can move from person to other persons. When the virus enters the cell, it takes control of the cell activities. It forces the cells to give instructions to make a new copy of virus. When the time passes, cell becomes filled. And it will be open and burst. The released viruses can attack other cells, causing infections and disease. Now, quick check question number 1. Explain why viruses are not classified into any of the 6 kingdoms. You can answer from this point. They don't carry out all of the basic life processes. This is the answer for quick check. They don't carry out all of the basic life processes, viruses. It can carry out only of these basic processes, reproduction only. Number 2, when caught an infected person caused someone else to get sick. In your opinion, what are the answers? You can say here, a person may become sick. A person may become sick when they come in contact. When they come in contact with someone who is infected. When the contact occurs, someone is infected. Now we have finished. We have lesson review, page 43. Question number 1, I will choose a student to answer it. Wasim Brady. Wasim.
Yes.
Question number 1, please answer.
Animals with backbones are vertebrates.
Are
Vertebrates.
vertebrate. Yes, vertebrates. Vertebrate. Excellent. Vertebrates. Number two. Number two, I'll choose Yusuf Ahmed.
Yes, Mr.
Yusuf Ahmed, please. Number two. Read number two.
How would you classify a multicellular organism that has cell walls but no chlorophyll?
Yes, here in the first angle, you can put not a plant. Here, not a plant. Here, not an animal. In this rectangle, you can put no chlorophyll. Here, no chlorophyll. Here, no chlorophyll. Here, has cell walls. Here, has cell walls. No chlorophyll. No chlorophyll. Here, cell wall. Cell wall. Cell wall here.
In the top rectangle, what should we write?
Here, not a plant. Number one, not a plant. Number two, not an animal. Yeah? Here, in this rectangle, no chlorophyll. No chlorophyll in this rectangle. Here, has cell wall. Has cell walls. Okay. Number three, Yazid Ashraf.
Yes, Mister.
Number three,
Okay. A computer virus is a program that takes over your computer. How is the computer virus similar to a virus infect cell? Computer virus doesn't infect cell, doesn't infect people, but it infects the computer.
okay, I will correct. I will correct. Thank you. Thank you, Yazid. Thank you. Write the answer, please. A virus that infects. A virus that infects cells takes over. A virus that infects cells. A virus that infects cells takes over the cell's activities. Takes over the cell's activities just as a computer virus. Just as computer virus takes over the computer's activities. Takes over the computer activities. Takes over the computer activities. Takes over the computer's activities. I will repeat from the beginning. A virus that infects cells takes over the cell's activities just as a computer virus takes over the computer's activities. Number 4, Ammar Khalid. Number 4, Ammar Khalid.
Which kingdom contains some organisms that spell plants and others that spell animals? Protists.
Yes, protists. Excellent. Thank you. Abdurrahman Wazir. Number 5.
Yes, Mr.
Abdurrahman Wazir.
Yes, Mr.
5. Number 5.
is classified as a vertebrate? A snail.
Snail.
A bird.
Bird. Yes, a bird. Yes, excellent. Excellent, Abdul Rahman. Thank you. Now, last questions. Yusuf Amr. Yusuf Amr. Last questions. Yusuf. Yusuf Amr. Last questions. Don't shy, Yusuf. Okay, I will choose other students. Yusuf Ahmed Ajlan. Yusuf Ahmed,
Yes, Mr.
read number 6, please.
How are living things similar and different?
Yes. Do you have any idea?
Living things are similar,
Are made of?
are made of cells.
Excellent, Yusuf. You did well. Excellent. Excellent. Yes. However, living things are also different. How? They differ in size. They differ in size and structure.
Are different in size.
Structure. Size, structure, and how they obtain food. How they obtain food. How they obtain food. Okay? I will repeat the answers. All living things are made of cells. However, living things are also different. They differ in size, structure, and how they obtain food. How they obtain food. Do you have any question, my sons?
No.
Yeah, Mr.
Yes, Mr.
All things clear?
Yeah.
there homework?
I didn't.
Is there any homework?
Homework, the homework, study the lessons hard. Okay?
Okay.
Study it.
Inshallah.
Yes, in this vacation, try to study all the previous lessons. Okay? In workbook and textbook.
Okay.
In workbook and textbook.
Mr. What is the answer for number 6?
I will open the camera.
Esther,
Yes?
I have a question.
Yes.